live. What's going on, Whisper Nation? Welcome to another Mock Draft Monday with your host, Big Travie, Johnny Game Time Hicks. I'm Austin Sear, and we've got 9 other members in our mock draft room on Sleeper getting ready to do this 10-team PPR Superflex mock. We're going to have 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, defense, 2 quarterbacks, all the bench spots, all that good stuff in a PPR format. Want to give a big shout out to everybody here who joined us for this live mock draft. We got another full mock drafting room. Love having this full room in here. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got Reed Tyler, Reed's daddy, Mikey G, the Cat's Pajamas, A+ team names. God, I love it so much. R Spotted, JW90 Hicks, Brandon Stan, FF Fortune, Mile High, Easy Daddy, and Jacob Lay, #1 fan of the show. Thank you guys all for joining us. Special shout out to Brandon Stan 26, who was on last week's show, said he wanted to get in on this action. Let us know in the comments. Welcome. Glad you were able to join us. Love to see Whisper Nation grow in that way. Speaking of which, if you're watching this show and you have not yet hit the like and subscribe button, please do so. It is what allows us to continue to grow this channel, come back every week, keep doing the research, and providing this engaging experience that we love to do, and we love to do it with you. So please be sure to like and subscribe. That way you can find out about all of the amazing daily content that's getting dropped literally every single day. Johnny is working his freaking ass off creating all of these videos, all of these graphics, all of the things to help make your league experience even better, giving you that edge over your league mates as the fantasy football season quickly approaches. Couple of more points before we get this thing started. Next Monday, so a week from today, the winner, based on draft grades of the mock draft, not of ours, but of the listeners, of those in Whisper Nation who sign up, who are a part of the league, and who get the highest draft grade, is going to get an invitation to our Listeners League. This is for our real thing, prizes, all kinds of notoriety. Your whole life changes if you win the Listener League. So highly recommend anybody jumping on for next week. Stay all the way through so we do the draft grades and get that invitation to the Listeners League. It's an opportunity to improve your life for the remainder of it. We're also got in August coming up Mock Draft Marathon. It is 24 straight hours of mock drafting, not all at once, consecutive hours, all lined out. And we're just doing nothing but mock drafting, and we'll have different rooms and different people leading the show, so keep an eye out for that. Another thing to keep an eye out for is the draft kit, which Johnny and Travis and the woman behind the glass, Chelsea Byers, have been working extremely hard on to bring you that amazing piece of fantasy football opportunity. It's got all the player profiles. It's got all the stats. It's got everything to give you a real edge in your draft, in your own league. So please check that out. While you're on the fantasywhispers.com, where you can check out that draft kit, you can also grab some of our swag that we've got available online. You can become a supporter of the show at patreon.com. And we've also got a bunch of articles that Travis has been working on. They are fantastic, and we encourage all y'all to check them out. Travis, Johnny, welcome.
All right.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to get
It's a
this.
beautiful Monday. I'm excited. You really just you jacked me up right there. Like I was pretty much asleep, and then you came in with all that hard-hitting information. I don't know how you could be asleep anymore. We're drafting a 10-team PPR Superflex, Johnny, and we're doing it together. You and I going at this together.
Hey, some people thought it could not be done. Some people thought it couldn't be done, but we are.
I still have my doubts. Yeah, we haven't started yet.
We haven't even gotten started.
Oh,
so.
That's true. Hey, we do have 15 people currently
from the guy
watching.
With the monologue.
Hey, we got the Whisper Nation is popping off right now. We have a bunch of people tuning in. Greatly appreciate. Should we get this thing started or what?
Yeah, let's do it. As we said, Johnny and I are co-drafting with tiebreakers being solved by the host, Austin, in all of his glory. Let's do this thing, dude. I'm ready to go.
The clock has started. Reed Tyler's on the board. In a PPR, is Christian McCaffrey anybody other than the guy you're thinking of at the #1 position? I know we talked about Saquon Barkley if we're in a regular redraft non-PPR format, but if we're at a full-point PPR, are you thinking anybody besides Christian McCaffrey seriously?
Think about Saquon. I like Saquon. I like the
Yeah.
idea of Saquon, even in PPR.
Well, and I think
Or
that
full-point
I think
PPR.
you have to weigh in and do the, what we've never seen before, like we've rarely ever seen, and that's that a running back repeats as the number 1 overall running back. It's like never. We've only seen it a few times, and so history and probability would indicate that CMC is not going to return as the number 1 overall running back. So yeah, if you wanted to go Saquon Barkley or Alvin Kamara or Ezekiel Elliott, who we have in our draft kit as the number 1 overall running back in 2020, do it. Like I don't think there's a wrong answer with the first 4 picks. Like I really don't.
I say this almost every time, and I just have to reiterate it again. I'm going to say it many more times. If you're toying back and forth between one guy or the next, especially in these earlier rounds, and you're doing your numbers and you see one guy that is just a hair above or maybe a half a step above the next, but you're really not a fan of this guy. Maybe he plays for your least favorite team. Maybe you just got some personal vendetta against the dude, whatever it might be. And the other guy you actually like, maybe he's a part of your team, maybe you've been a fan for a while. Don't overthink it too much. Go with the guy you like because it's a coin toss at the end of the day anyways. And if you get stuck with a guy you didn't like and he doesn't perform, you're really going to hate yourself versus even if the guy you wanted doesn't get to his ceiling, at least you still like watching him. I took Devontae Freeman in the second round over Derrick Henry last year, and it's like a year later, and I'm still upset about it. I like Derrick Henry, but I thought Devontae Freeman was going to do better, and it's still aging me at a year later. So I like.
Yeah,
all
I mean,
those
I
points.
think at the end of the day, we play this game to have fun, right? So why not have fun and pick guys that you want?
We
you
should
want
not
to
have
score you the
mentioned it.
points that are going to have you fun.
We shouldn't have mentioned
Speaking
anything.
of-
We shouldn't have mentioned anything because we could have gotten Ezekiel Elliott.
We could have gotten Ezekiel. We almost did, but the cat's pajamas. He came in there and swooped that up, I believe, as he should. So Johnny Travis, right now with 40 seconds left on the clock, who are you thinking about in that 5th spot at a 10-team PPR Superflex?
So I'm saying full point PPR. This is just my suggestion. We pivot here. Everybody's zigging. We zag. We take the wide receiver. We take Michael Thomas, and we started off with a wide receiver.
I'm good with that. I think that
All right.
Dalvin Cook is definitely someone interesting, but with the holdout situation and things up in the air with that situation, yes, and it being a PPR, I agree with Travis taking Michael Thomas here, best player available.
I like that move on there. While the clock is making its way around, just want to give a shout out again to everybody that is in the YouTube chat right now. What's up, y'all? What's up, Josh? What's going on? Pimpin' Ain't Easy. Good to see you back here. And Pontiac died in 1981. He's new to the show. He's checking it out for the first time. Great to have you, Pontiac. And good luck in your upcoming August draft. He's got the first pick, it looks like, in a Superflex league. So good luck with that one. That's definitely a fun spot to be in. Picks taken off the board thus far. We had Christian McCaffrey go number 1, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott. We went at the 5th spot and selected Michael Thomas, PPR monster, and Derrick Henry was taken immediately after that. Fantasy Fortune is on the clock. He takes Dalvin Cook. Mile High had no hesitation, takes Devontae Adams, wide receiver out of Green Bay, which is setting up Easy Daddy for the 9th, and Jacob Blay with the 10th round pick. Travis, Johnny, what are your hopes? What are you thinking that is likely going to be coming back as this ticker makes its way around into the 2nd round, coming back your way? Johnny, what are you thinking right now?
To be honest with you, I'm hoping Kenyon Drake falls to us, but I know that. But I know he's not going to now, and I know that Travis doesn't want to take it.
No, I would take him. That's exactly who I was looking at here. Coming around full point PPR, we already know how many plays this team just wants to run. Like Kliff Kingsbury wants to run the hell out of these plays with the Arizona Cardinals. Kenyon Drake, we've already seen Kliff Kingsbury is going to give the ball to whoever the running back is a butt ton of times. So yeah, I would be right there with you. I just
want to say about Kliff Kingsbury, I swear to God, that dope ass photo of him when they were doing the drafting and the virtual situation, and he's sitting in his mountainside house. I swear to God, that single image alone has elevated the profile and expectations of Kliff Kingsbury and of the Arizona Cardinals in general. It's like, that's a suave, sophisticated looking team. We now expect more out of all of them. I see us getting talked about more than we ever did before that. But I digress. We saw Kenyon Drake get taken off the board. That's what Johnny is so frustrated about, as is Joe Mixon as well. The second round was taking Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, then Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, setting us up now for our second round pick. Kenyon Drake's gone. Joe Mixon's gone. What are the alternatives you're exploring?
I'm gonna say keep going. Let's keep going upside down a little bit here. We've got running backs coming off that we don't, the ones that are left we don't particularly like. I would say Johnny, Julio, or DeAndre. That's where I'm at now.
You know how much I love Nick Chubb though this year. I am a huge fan. But yeah, why not? Let's do Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins. Let's go Julio Jones. Julio Jones. Jam it.
Julio Jones.
We got Julio higher than DeAndre. Oh, that's dirty. That's so nasty.
Oh my God, I'm laughing.
Yeah, I like that.
So good.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
That.
The Nick Chubb was super tempting there.
Nick Chubb was there. I even, there were some other running backs I was looking at, but I wondered if we couldn't get away with the fact that people are taking running back early here.
Yeah.
And take the studs that we have, and then we can get running backs maybe in the third and fourth to make up for the way we've started here. But we'll see. I mean, look, we wanted Kenyon Drake. We wanted Ezekiel Elliott. We had to adjust and move around, and that's what happens in drafts. So we're just trying to show you what it takes and how you can adjust on the fly.
Speaking of adjusting on the fly, one thing I want to let the listeners know that we failed to mention about the beginning of our draft strategy is not only are we going to go upside down on this one.
I thought you were going to bring up Brett Favre. My bad. You said
that's later. That's in rounds 3 and 4.
You said off the fly.
What we're going to be doing is we're going to be withholding taking a quarterback until the double-digit round. So we know in a Superflex is going to have 2 quarterbacks likely taken per team because you can start another quarterback in your flex position. So why the hell would you not start a quarterback in that second flex position over, say, a tight end or running back or wide receiver? We're going to go ahead and see what's available if we don't take a quarterback until the 10th round. We'll see. Do we recommend this in your normal drafts? Maybe, maybe not. Right now we wouldn't, but let's go ahead and just see what develops. This helps you get a better pulse of what you can expect and to stretch your comfort zone before your actual draft happens. This is what a mock draft is for. These things don't count, even though you would be confused if you watched last week's episode and you heard how many F-bombs got dropped on the show when we had a point of contention. But that is neither here nor there. It is a new week. So we're going upside down. We're taking a quarterback in round 10. Let's see what happens. We took Julio Jones to pair along with Michael Thomas. Oh, that feels so good to say. I'm just going to pause for a second and just let it sink in.
It's a little dangerous.
All right. Then follow was DeAndre Hopkins, Nick Chubb, Chris Godwin's gone, and the second round closes out with Travis Kelce. Reed Tyler is making his selection, first pick in the third round. Coming back your way, Johnny, Travis, are you thinking of grabbing another wide receiver or possibly a tight end, possibly a George Kittle, and keeping this upside down rolling? Or is it now time to start grabbing a running back, depending on who's available? Travis, what are you thinking right now as the third round progresses and gets closer to us?
You don't want to let me just kind of get control here because, I'm really tempted to kind of keep it going here. I look at some of the guys that are available at the wide receiver position. Kenny G's still sitting there. If he's still around, that's tempting. Even Juju Smith-Schuster, which with Big Ben back, I just don't see a reason why Juju Smith-Schuster isn't being taken consistently in the second, back of the second, beginning of the third. There's some tempting things here. We'll see. George Kittle's sitting there just screaming, like one of the few tight ends in the league with over 20% of his target market share. And now with Deebo Samuel hurt, who else are they going to throw the ball to? Yeah, there's other guys there, but not guys that are going to soak up as much as George Kittle. So, it's tempting, but we'll just see what's available at running back. I think we got to do our due diligence and see who's there.
You, Johnny. So we heard a little bit of the continuing that upside down with 2 picks up until ours. Where's your head at, Johnny, right now?
Honestly, like the wide receivers. Typically, I probably would go running back.
Off the board now. So.
Yeah, Kittle's off the board, which I'm kind of grateful for because I did not want to go Kittle at all. If there's any position I feel extremely confident in picking, a tight end or picking a player to significantly, give you more draft value, it's at that tight end position. I feel really confident in that. So I would probably say let's look at the running back certainly, but man, these juicy wide receivers. Now we kind of have put ourselves into a position to where it actually might be more beneficial for our team to just continue with this and say, no, we're going to grab the next best wide receiver that we have here to just make this really good stack of wide receivers, and then just, figure it out at the running back position, because what you will find now is that a lot of these teams, they have grabbed multiple running backs. So now what are they looking for? Wide receiver. So now we are able to, zag when everyone was zigging, and then we reverse that. And so you're able to, get some value later on in drafts that you might have not have been able to get because you were going with what the, the majority of drafters were doing.
Yeah, so now we're sitting here.
That's a very good point.
I think we're sitting here with Kenny G on the board.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how we can pass that up, dude.
Just take him.
I don't know how you can pass that up.
I think we're going to – Todd Gurley is a nice staple to get just based on usage. We've talked about Todd Gurley having a nice year this year. James Conner is even a guy I like. I know Johnny's not a huge fan. Leonard Fournette is a guy Johnny likes. I'm not the biggest fan on. David Johnson's there. But I'm going to go ahead and say we should pull the trigger here on Kenny G and see what's left for us in the 4th round with running back.
I agree with that, because what's probably going to come around are a lot of good running backs. And
I was looking. We got Chris Carson and Le'Veon Bell potentially available if we wait around.
Give me that, or
So Kenny G, you're good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with Kenny G. I love that pick. That pick.
Galladay is such a dude knocking right on the elite door. He is right there from the terms of catches, opportunities, skill set, everything.
Athleticism.
Dude's a stud.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing nobody talks about enough with Kenny G is his physical attributes as a wide receiver, as a prospect.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is stacked.
And his smooth routes, dude. Talk about route running, dude. That's Kenny G. It doesn't get much better than that.
I expect them to be playing from behind a lot, as the Lions are accustomed to doing. And Kenny G, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities coming your way. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the points that you brought up there from these other running backs. There are a couple of decent staples in that one. Guys who are going to be getting that opportunity. Todd Gurley, David Johnson. Guys who are not as shiny as they once were. Leonard Fournette, good case again. But these are all guys who do have some question marks, whether it's Chris Thompson over there, which is really going to hamper Fournette's opportunity to collect 100 targets again this year. Todd Gurley is not that explosive running back. Now, he's still going to be solid for you, but when we can go ahead and structure a team like this and just see what is available, and hey, maybe we do end up getting one of those guys that slips a little bit further, and now we've got hands down the most stacked wide receiver setup. No one can play with us on this one. I'm really excited to put us in this somewhat of a strained position, but then let's see what's available. Let's see what happens when the chips fall out the way that we're trying to stack them up. I love what's going on here. Following
Jacob
that
Blay.
Kenny Galladay pick, we saw Adam Thielen, Kyler Murray, David Johnson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Russell Wilson off the board to close the 3rd round. We're now starting up the 4th round. Chris Carson's gone. And while they're starting to make their picks, and you guys are thinking about who we're going to snag in the 4th round, I just want to give a shout out again to everybody here in the sleeper room. Great all to have you here. And then to all of our listeners in Whisper Nation who are tuning into YouTube at the live chat. We got some questions going on. No, this is not a tight end premium league. The dude in the red hat looks like a member of the Guardian Angels. Johnny, yes, you do right now. Get that beard going. I love it. Pontiac died in 81, man. I'm glad this guy's joined our room. He's bringing a lot of goodness over here to the chat. Do you think Eckler will break 80 catches this year? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's
80 catches. I was thinking of targets. He's definitely breaking 80 targets.
I think that'll even be close, to be honest with you, because what we have found is Tyrod Taylor does not like to do dump offs. He's going from Phillip Rivers, who is
Johnny. I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got 50 seconds, and you've got to talk to me here. What you're thinking? I've steered the ship a little bit on these picks, so I want to give you some of the more of the say here. All right, what are you thinking? We got running backs available. We've got Mark Andrews sitting there too. Zach Ertz as well.
Oh
We
my
could
gosh,
really
this
flip
is
the
just
script here.
yeah. I mean, we could really do
Got
some.
Leonard Fournette too.
I know I love
Yeah.
the Leonard Fournette here.
Mm.
But I know that Big Travie. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I would go
If you want
Le'Veon
to take
Bell.
Leonard, that's fine.
No, I would
Oh,
I
we
would
could-
go Le'Veon Bell
I
here.
would approve of that.
Because I do think that Le'Veon Bell is going to get a huge workload, and he would fit perfectly into RB1 spot.
You don't think Fournette's going to get a big workload?
I do, but
Can you guarantee Fournette's workload? Because the Jaguars can't even guarantee they want him on their team.
yeah, I mean that
He's
is.
on
They
the
didn't even
team.
pick.
That's
They
next
didn't
year.
pick up his option, and
Is he under contract
countless-
this year?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They didn't pick up his option, and he's always striking out with the team. Like he's always under some disciplinary act with that team. So
Yeah.
I just
I like the Le'Veon Bell pick. I think Le'Veon Bell is a big slept-on dude. I think people forget about really his age, where he's at, what's going on, and if the Jets were god awful last year. Like they were bad all the way around, and Le'Veon Bell was like he wasn't a sexy player, but he was producing for your team. You were
over
very happy to have him playing.
303 touches last year for Le'Veon Bell, top 10 in carries, top 10 in targets at the running back position. Yeah,
I think it's more important to note
he has
too.
such a fat contract that they have to give him the football. Even if you don't like Adam Gase, nobody here likes Adam Gase or his play calling, but he is contractually obligated pretty much to give Le'Veon Bell the football based on the money that they gave him.
I will say they
It kind of is
also
true, and let's be
did.
real.
They did upgrade that offensive line, so that is one plus.
Yep.
And
So-
Sam Darnold's going to be better. He had mono last
Yeah.
year. He's a pretty good quarterback. I think they improved their weapons over there. I think Jamison Crowder's going to do great. Y'all know I love Rashad Perriman. The line did improve, just like he said. The defense should be all right. But I think Sam Darnold's going to keep those chains moving. And I think Le'Veon Bell is really getting slept on. He's not going to be as sexy as he once was. He's not going to be getting 40 touches or anything like that. But he's going to be getting a ton of opportunity, and he's still a very, very good running back on the right side of 30.
Had a career low in yards per carry last year with that atrocious offensive line. If they increase that just a little bit, he gets back up into the 4.5 yards per carry with 300 touches. Give me that all day.
Yeah,
in
that's
the fourth round. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm based on where we were in the risk mitigation. I think that Le'Veon Bell fit really well there. Austin and I.
Yeah,
If
and
we're-
I like Fournette. I think it's fine. He got a ton of targets last year. He did a career best in targets. Those targets were also not very good. If you look at where
Yeah.
they were at on the field, they were not good as far as down the field. They were a lot of dump offs that were not very good. So for me, and then Chris Thompson's going to come in and take away some of that. So I like Le'Veon Bell's role being more secure than. And the shot at the Jets being better than the Jaguars.
Pontiac died in 1981, said Gase belongs in outer space. And this guy fits right in with us because, yes, we love saying how much we hate Adam Gase pretty regularly. How that guy is still a head coach. He should be sending massive thank you letters to Peyton Manning every single Christmas. And probably every holiday for that fact, because that is probably the only reason that he has that job still is because of Peyton Manning. Don't like him as a head coach at all.
He definitely owes, as does a handful of other members who are still in that NFL fraternity, a deep debt of gratitude to Mr. Peyton Manning. And I hope that he is getting more than a couple of extra Papa John's pizzas sent to him. So following that
Sounds so
Le'Veon
good right
Bell
now.
pick,
Oh,
what's
That
I know,
garlic
right?
butter.
We saw Le'Veon Bell. We took following James Conner, then Leonard Fournette, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham off the board to close the fourth round. Reed Tyler started the fifth round, taking Jonathan Taylor, rookie running back out of Indianapolis, followed by Melvin Gordon the third. We got 2 picks towards our next pick. So far, we've drafted Michael Thomas, Julio Jones,
our boy
Kenny
go.
Golladay, and our first running back, Le'Veon Bell, in the fourth round. What are we thinking right
I can
now
tell
as
you
the
what I'm
fifth
thinking,
round gets a little
Tony.
I
closer
could
to
tell
us?
you what I'm thinking too, dude. And it might be the same
what
thing
you're
you're
thinking.
thinking.
I'm thinking friend of the show, Mark Mandrews, right here.
I'm
thinking-
yeah, I'm good with Mark Mandrews or honestly his teammate and just solidify our backfield here in Mark Ingram,
Mark Ingram.
grabbing him as well, and then all of a sudden this is just too
Yeah,
nice. But
if Ingram, yeah, you're right there. If Ingram's there, I say we still go Ingram, and then if not, we could probably pivot, end up pivoting to the tight end and getting Mark Andrews there.
yeah, I'm good with either one of those.
I personally love that. And Whisper Nation, we all have a little bit different draft strategies. We'd love to share those ones with you. What would make me so damn happy on this is if we set it up, and of course, we don't want to reach for anybody if there's somebody valuable there, but if we go ahead and we take Mark Ingram here, and then we can in the next round or the round after that grab that high pedigree rookie they drafted in J.K. Dobbins, that would essentially lock up the run heavy Baltimore backfield, meaning that we could have gone and taken 3 wide receivers started off, and then getting 2 guaranteed running backs in Le'Veon Bell and the starter for Baltimore. Not saying we're going to do that. There might be someone to take a better dice roll on, but this is a way you can start to hedge your bets and make sure you have a dynamite starting roster throughout the season. What are we thinking here? Mark Andrews is available. Mark Ingram's there too. So is David Montgomery. That's an interesting one.
I know. I like him
Any
as
thoughts
well.
on
I like him as.
You want to go with Ingram, Johnny?
Is that what you want? I'm down with either Ingram or Andrews. I like both of those.
I think we could get a running back here. That would be good.
Okay. Yeah, let's just do Mark Ingram then, and then I'm totally cool. Listen, I will make the argument that if it would have been also an equally smart move to take Mark Andrews there because of the positional advantage that he gives you and your team, and based on the way that we kind of set up our team, Mark Andrews could have made a really nice, put a really nice spot in there. But again, I just think that I did a lot of research on Mark Ingram, and a lot of people are just and I'll even admit it. I was a part of that group too. That J.K. Dobbins came in, and boy did I get on that hype train real quick because he looks good and he looks quick and elusive and quick and all that. But then you really look at Mark Ingram and you just look at his career. And this guy is a solid running back. He always proves every year. And the thing is like the fantasy community just decided that we were going to write this guy off. But he was like a top 12 running back last year.
Yeah, and once again, he's age isn't a big concern. All these different things. He's not going to be getting 30 touches a game, but he's going to be playing on a really good offense. He's going to get the rock more than any other running back. And let me ask you guys this, because I know you know the answer. What does Mark Ingram and Robert Woods have in common, fantasy-wise?
Both undervalued, and
they always outperform their ADP.
Always, yeah.
Every single year, these guys outperform their ADP. Not the most sexy picks every time, but they always outperform their ADP, and I don't think this is the year that trend stops. Following our Mark Ingram pick, we saw Mark Andrews, the aforementioned, followed by A.J. Brown, Zach Ertz, Robert Woods, and Cam Akers to close out the 5th round. We're now getting started into the 6th round with Calvin Ridley, the first wide receiver off the board. So, guys, we've got ourselves I like the way that this roster's shaken out. We got 2 elite, a 3rd borderline elite wide receiver there in Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Kenny Golladay, Le'Veon Bell, and Mark Ingram to hold down our running back spots. We said it's a super flex, but we said we're going to withhold taking a quarterback until the double-digit rounds. Where's your head at now with 3 or 4 picks before our 6th round selection? Travis, what's going through your head? What are you hoping for right now?
Eyeballing Darren Waller here, as we missed out on Mark Andrews. He was drafted right after us. If Darren Waller goes, I'd be tempted to take Evan Ingram, but I understand withholding and just waiting and punting tight end too. Evan Ingram just excites me, and that just be my eyes are bigger than my stomach kind of thing, because Evan Ingram can't stay healthy. But
I like punting tight ends in the past too. Darren Waller is amazing though.
Yeah, so, Waller. Yeah. I mean, especially in a PPR, that's a really good pick there.
I think that's where I'm thinking. It's like Waller's just sitting there with just tons of volume, main vein of his offense. You could argue that Ruggs is set up to be that, but Ruggs is a rookie in a COVID offseason. I kind of like where Waller's sitting here for us. Take him in the 6th, be set, really be that much closer to a starting roster. And that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. We're punting the QB position till round 10, which means we're actually leaving ourselves susceptible. If the draft doesn't go our way, we could end up with not good quarterbacks. Why not try and round out our starting roster as much as possible so that we could make up for the fact that we're going to have to take quarterback late? It was kind of my thinking with Mark Andrews, but we ended up getting 2 solid running backs that we got. Mark Ingram is a running back on a run-heavy offense, and then Le'Veon Bell is just going to be the focal point of his offense. So. Darren
me tell you
Waller's
why
my
I like.
vote. Johnny, do you have somebody else in mind?
I mean, the only other person I would consider here would be David Montgomery. I love the value, but let's just take Darren Waller. I love the positional advantage he gives you. Now we don't have to worry about like, hey, taking these stabs at these later round tight ends. And we just grab Darren Waller. He's going to get a lot of volume, and but David Montgomery definitely was a consideration for me in this.
Now, the only reason I'm not throwing a fit about taking Darren Waller over David Montgomery. Now, if you think about this, you're week 4, week 5 in the season, and let's say these all work out the way you expect them to. David Montgomery is getting the monster share of the workload. That's an improved offense over there. They're moving the ball. David Montgomery is, a low-end RB1, a high-end RB2. And Darren Waller is, say, like he's performing where he's supposed to, but he's like a top 5 tight end. If somebody goes ahead and offers you, I will trade you straight up David Montgomery for this tight end, you're most likely. And I know it's a PPR. I know there's some different things there, but just you're probably doing that. But what I want to say in this position, Darren Waller is a special selection as far as I'm analyzing it, because Darren Waller, I think, is going to be the number 1 target on that team. I think that he's going to be the go-to guy that Derek Carr or whoever ends up throwing the ball is really going to be looking to, and is going to be the safety blanket, is going to be a playmaker, is going to be one of those rare tight ends that we've seen in years past. He's not going to be like a Jimmy Graham with the Saints. He's not that good, but he does start to knock in some of those similarities in terms of his role on the offense, his playmaking abilities. And if you go ahead and get a tight end who's playing more like a wide receiver, oh my goodness, that's a guy you end up seeing in the next year's redraft league going in rounds 1 or 2. Do you think Darren Waller has that type of ceiling potential for him, or where do you think that his real value ends up coming in, Johnny? What came to mind for you and gave you such confidence taking him there in the 6th round when a featured running back like a David Montgomery or a Devin Singletary was still available?
I'm not concerned, or I'm not convinced, not to cut you off, that either David Montgomery or Devin Singletary are featured running backs. That's the other point here. Is Tariq Cohen exists. Zach Moss was drafted with high capital for Buffalo. Well, I understand that you like Devin Singletary, Johnny. I understand you like David Montgomery, and I think David Montgomery is a fine talent, but Tariq Cohen is a guy that they like there. That Nick Foles does throw to the running back quite a bit in his career. I think that's thinking that we missed out on a potential bell cow is not the case. I don't think we did in either situation.
Well, I do like Tyreek Cohen. That's why I was, I'm like, well, if we miss David Montgomery, this is a PPR league, so getting Tyreek Cohen, in the 12th round or 11th round, wherever we can get him, isn't that, I don't think that that's going to really be a huge difference in our team. Whereas I think Darren Waller could be the number 1 overall tight end? It would be hard for me to, I don't know if I can get myself to wrap around that realization, but when you're looking at the tiers, certainly, there is a tier drop off after Darren Waller. I feel like you have some of these guys that show potential. Evan Ingram, guys like Evan Ingram or Hayden Hurst, Rob Gronkowski, Tyler Higbee. These guys are all oh, they're interesting dart throws, but then now you're not only taking the dart throws, but also taking the consideration of the draft capital and what you're doing there. And Darren Waller just seemed to make the most sense here. And you have to, again, this is only a 10-team league and a Superflex. You have to set yourself apart in certain areas. You have to take your advantages where you can. And I think that's why it made sense to take Darren Waller there, because it's an advantage.
To fill out my last point on him there, they drafted a lot of rookies, right? They got Ruggs, fastest guy in the draft, but this is a rookie wide receiver, boomer bust type of player. He's not going to be the main vein. Tyrell Williams last year was that main vein in a lot of ways, but Darren Waller was right there too, and I think that Tyrell Williams is going to slip a little bit, but I think Darren Waller's put in a position to shine across the board. When you look at those different tiers, it's Evan Ingram is the only one who I think you could put in that same category. He could be a main vein over there for Daniel Jones, which the injury concern over there, which we don't have for Darren Waller, and I like the Darren Waller pick over Evan Ingram too. So as we're getting ready for our next pick, and Johnny and Travis are looking at the board, I just want to give a quick rundown of this last 6th round. We had Calvin Ridley, Drew Brees, Matt Stafford, Amari Cooper, DJ Shark, Darren Waller taken by us, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen. Closed out the 6th round. We started up the 7th with DeAndre Swift, followed by Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin. Setting up now our 7th round pick with 40 seconds left. Johnny Travis. Johnny, right now, who are you thinking right now of pairing up with our team?
I really wanted Terry McLaurin. That's who I was really going to try to make an argument for, even though we have 3 dominant wide receivers. I would have loved to grab Terry McLaurin here. But now, honestly, looking at this, I'm really interested in grabbing Creme Hunt here. I would love to grab that pick. I think it's a tremendous upside, especially paired with what we have at running back position. I would go Creme Hunt. That would be my. Raheem Mostert is interesting to me as well. I wouldn't mind if Travis went there.
Let's take Hunt. I really was actually going to try and pitch you. We ran out of time. I was going to try and pitch you T.Y. Hilton here. So we'll see if there's a scenario where T.Y. Hilton makes it back around. But T.Y. Hilton, man, is set up to be the number 1 wide receiver there, get fed targets by Phillip Rivers. They had their offensive coordinator come out this week and just say, look, T.Y. Hilton's healthy. He's going to get 1,200 yards and close to 8 touchdowns. That's what this guy does. He is our
Even though he's never done that.
T.Y. Hilton.
He's never had 8 touchdowns. He's only had 6 as the max touchdowns in an entire career, and all of a sudden this guy.
Never had Phillip Rivers. He's never had
Yeah. Well, he's
yeah.
The one thing I want to throw out, I threw it out there a couple of weeks ago, and it's still true today, is that Andrew Luck said T.Y. Hilton is the best football player he's ever played with, and he meant it too. I mean, when you watch that press conference, he held that point until the end, and he dropped it with emphasis.
I mean, and everybody knows what T.Y. stands for. Touchdown, y'all.
No, that's not what it stands for. Because I had never. No, that's not what it.
That's what it stands for.
It's. I wish he had a touchdown, y'all. That's what it stands for. Because
it's this and
like I said, T.Y. Hilton has never had more than 6 touchdown receptions in a year. And I'll give him the yardage. Yeah, he'll probably get 1,200 yards, but he's not gonna I would say maybe he'll have 5 touchdowns. I think that's kind of where he's at. He's a decent, T.Y. Hilton's nice. He's a good piece, but he's always injured, and I don't want to, I don't know. I just rather have someone else. I rather have Kareem Hunt.
We don't have him. Calm down. Jeez, Good. We didn't draft him. Jeez.
We didn't draft him.
I'm just saying, I probably won't own T.Y. Hilton in any leagues this year. I'll be honest with the Whisper Nation. I'll be honest with you guys. I probably will not have a single league where I have T.Y. Hilton.
It's not sexy, dude. I obviously would have rather had Terry McLaurin or even DK Metcalf ahead of T.Y. Hilton. But if we're sitting there at that break, this is a guy who's probably going to get 20 to 23, 24% of his team's market share this year. That's pretty good to get in the 7th round of a PPR league. Come on.
Josh A. in the YouTube comment says Rivers will target Doyle in the red zone. I know you guys just had an episode talking about Jack Doyle. Big fan of his sleeper potential. I think that's a likely scenario. But T.Y. Hilton is a guy who can take the lid off, right?
Yeah. All right. Cool. He's going to target Doyle in the red zone. That's great. He's going to target
Doyle.
That's not what T.Y. does. He's going to target Doyle 5 times, 6 times a game. He's going to target T.Y. Hilton 10 or 11 or 12.
I don't think T.Y. Hilton is not a volume receiver. We are putting a volume receiver on his name, and he's not that. He's a field stretcher. He's not going to get 12 targets a game. Let's be honest. He's going to get 7, maybe 8, if that. I'm telling you, Phillip Rivers is not going to target him that often, and if there's anyone that you're going to want for Indianapolis Colts at the wide receiver position, it's the rookie. And I'm not a big rookie guy for wide receivers, but he is going to be the guy that I promise you will be the most consistent out of the 3 of these guys.
Now, if we're going to stick with the Indianapolis conversation, I don't think we can sleep on Paris Campbell, last year's rookie. With a lot of
Paris Campbell has some concerns with route running that I'm reading. That's what the concern there. Or else I would be on that boat because he's going to play the slot. Or I know T.Y. Hilton sometimes plays the slot as well, and we'll move in there. But
a lot of things to keep an eye out over there in Indianapolis. T.Y. Hilton was taken right after we took Kareem Hunt, and following that pick went Devontae Parker, Marvin Jones, Ronald Jones, and rounding out the 7th round with Stefon Diggs. I'm a big Stefon Diggs fan this year. I swear I'm the only person here, but I think that he's one of the few people going this late in rounds who has legit potential to be a low-end wide receiver 1, just based on his.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
intangibles, his new team, his age. I think he's coming right into his prime. And if him and Josh Allen can connect.
Huh?
You love Stefon Diggs?
Oh no, I thought he said T.Y. Hilton. Sorry, I thought he said no. I thought he said Will Fuller. Is why I thought he saw or he said. Wait, you think Diggs? Hold on. Austin thinks Diggs could be a wide receiver one, a low end.
Back end.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds hideous.
I want him to elaborate.
Yeah, please explain yourself. Explain
we know
yourself.
That Josh Allen has great down the field accuracy, and John Brown, was a very serviceable wide receiver when he came over and was brand new to that system and was a plug and play, and he made it happen. I think Stefon Diggs is 2 rungs or maybe more above John Brown. So if you bring Stefon Diggs in there and he can have a chemistry connection with Josh Allen right away, you're dealing with a guy whose skill set is similar-ish to like an Antonio Brown's. He can shake, he can bake, he can catch over the middle, take it to the house, he can catch a 60-yard bomb. He's got that kind of playmaking ability, and if he can develop a connection with Josh Allen, he's going to be a guy who's going to be winning leagues.
There are 2 issues with that argument.
Thought, Johnny, we've got 40 seconds. Now, I want to look at wide receiver here if you're thinking. And I've got a tasty little morsel in Marquis Brown just sitting here as an upside pick. But there's also Brandon Cooks. And I thought of Julian Edelman a little bit, too, in a PPR league. So
you didn't go – how is Jarvis Landry not a part of this conversation? I'd rather have Jarvis than any of those guys. Well, maybe not Marquis Brown. Maybe not Marquis Brown, but I'll take Jarvis definitely over Brandon Cooks or Julian Edelman. But let's go upside. We got upside, so let's get Marquis Brown because we want the upside. We want upside there.
I like the Marquis Brown pick. I think we got a couple pieces of that offense. So I'm excited about that. I think we had our bet here because the idea in taking Mark Ingram is that, hey, Baltimore is going to run. That's what they do. They're going to run a bunch, right? But there is some cases to be made based on just pure math and regression that Baltimore actually throws a lot more. They were in so many positive game scripts last year. They were in so many games where they had the lead that they were able to run. Do they get in games now this year where they have to pass? And that could actually benefit guys like Mark Andrews and Marquis Brown, who we just drafted, and Lamar Jackson actually throwing the ball a whole lot more than he had to last year.
I just love the fact that he's a second-year wide receiver. There is so much of a learning curve that especially wide receivers take on as they enter the NFL. That second and third year really can show enormous growth. And Marquis Brown, along with Lamar Jackson, boy, it feels like almost like a new Deshaun Jackson coming into the league, this type of player.
Marquis Brown was, he had the Liz Frank injury, came in right away, though, no training camp, no nothing, and torched the Dolphins for $150 almost.
I mean, to be fair, Travis, you could torch the Dolphins for $150 with no training.
Either way, Marquis Brown still showed a lot of 7 touchdowns last year. Still great, great work that he did in very limited action, very limited snaps last year. So love Marquis Brown's upside this year.
After Marquis Brown, we saw Matt Ryan and Damian Williams taken off the board. Before that, Aaron Rodgers, Raheem Mostert, Josh Allen, Tevin Coleman, and Will Fuller, the 5th taken. Tom Brady was now taken after Damian Williams. We're taking the last pick in the 8th round as it starts to round out back to us. Wanted to give everybody here in the live chat a big shout out. We got a lot of action that's being discussed. Love to see that. As well as thank you all 9 other members who joined our live draft here on Sleeper. Be sure to join in our live draft next Monday, because next Monday, after it's all done, we're going to do draft grades as we do, and whoever has the best team next week is going to receive an invitation to the Fantasy Whispers Listeners League. This is an opportunity to play with us in a real league where the championship is supreme happiness for the rest of your life. You want to get into this league, join us next week, and we'll see what happens there. 9th round started off. Marlon Mack's off the board. Carson Wentz is gone. It's a couple of picks coming up to us. Travis, who do you got your eyes on right now?
I'll tell you, I got my eyes on J.K. Dobbins, only to prove a point to Austin, who wanted to take J.K. Dobbins back in the 6th, that we could have waited and taken J.K. Dobbins. But we may not get him now because he may get drafted before us.
Yeah, basically every person
that we ended up rounding out our starting roster and got a couple more bench spots before we were able to kind of look at handcuff. And I think that's the only argument I make against handcuff. I understand locking up a backfield, but let's round out our entire roster. Let's talk about an entire team. Let's talk about all the things we can do before we're trying to lock up one position. When you give yourself a lot more options, I feel like you're allowing yourself a better roster construction.
If you want to call me out on this pick, I didn't want to take him in the 6th round. If you could have gone that one, I would have rather taken J.K. Dobbins than Kareem Hunt, because I think that Kareem Hunt is still a second fiddle player who's going to be catching passes on the 3rd down. But Nick Chubb, no one's taking that job from Nick Chubb. Just like Mark Ingram's got the role here, but J.K. Dobbins is going to come in and have arguably somewhat of a similar role that Kareem Hunt could be seeing. So now you've got a guy who could be expecting.
I don't think that at all. I don't.
And then Mark Ingram goes down, and now you got an RB1.
Okay, and if Nick Chubb goes down, you got an RB1. But instead, Kareem Hunt has a solidified role, is not a rookie in a COVID offseason, has a solidified role, has led the league in rushing before, so I know what I'm getting in Kareem Hunt. Like, I'm getting an all-star caliber talent. So, yeah, I understand the argument. I get trying to lock up your backfield. I just, for me, Johnny, we got 30 seconds. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into that. Do you want to take Dobbins, or are you looking at something else here?
Yeah, Dobbins is good. I mean, Darius Geis is definitely an interesting. I don't know how he's still available right now. But Darius Geis is someone I'd also be interested in. But
let's take Geis.
Yeah, I would prefer Geis just because I think the upside is more there than getting J.K. Dobbins. I understand the thought process of going to sleep at night being like I don't care what happens because I have the whole backfield. But it is true that when you look at fantasy rosters, that limits the upside of your fantasy roster. And the truth is, too, that
Geis is totally different. Geis is a totally different pick than a Kareem Hunt, as far as I'm concerned, because Geis doesn't need anything to happen for Geis to get the opportunity. Geis is the lead running back. Geis is going to be doing what Geis is going to be doing, regardless of anybody else.
He's not going to get a 3-down roll off the bat, though, either. Like, he's going to get a limited roll.
He's going to get a 2-down roll.
I'm sure.
That's the thing.
That's a spot.
You don't need running backs to get a ton of carries to be efficient and effective on your team. Kareem Hunt showed that last year where he got 10 touches per game on it, and that's what he'll get. He'll get between 7 and 14 touches in this Stefanski offense. And we saw what he can do in those 7 to 14 touches is enough to make him an RB2. So I am so fine with taking Kareem Hunt where we did, because I know that right now, starting day one, he will have flex appeal options for me. J.K. Dobbins, I'm not confident in saying the same thing.
For sure. No, I totally get that point. And I would take Darius Geis over J.K. Dobbins as well. Like, that starting running back is there. He's starting. He's there. It's somebody you're plugging into your lineup regardless, or you're happy to plug him in regardless. Anybody can get hurt. We know these things. Darius Geis, that's why he's going so low. He could, but we're not going to bet on injury. So we're going to go ahead and play for the opportunity game. And to your point, Johnny, Kareem Hunt is somebody who does have the standalone value. He might be their wide receiver 3. So Kareem Hunt is a special case, right? Like, it's another borderline elite talent, guy who leads the league. He's like number 2 in the league behind Derrick Henry on missed tackles. Like, the guy really knows how to play. The Browns are going to be factoring him into their system all over the place. So Kareem Hunt is a little bit different of an animal. I'm just saying that when you're starting to consider other second fiddles on a team, I would personally rather take the second fiddle on a guy that is.
Yeah, like I understand your argument, Austin. Correct me if I'm wrong. If we're sitting there looking at Tariq Cohen over a J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion, I'm taking J.K. Dobbins. Like, I get that argument there. But Kareem Hunt, like you said, is a special case. For me, I find myself drafting Kareem Hunt in so many mocks because Kareem Hunt is a guy that can win you your league just based on the fact that he could end up being a flex that's really powerful, or then Chubb goes down and you've got an RB1 no matter what. Like, you've got a guy that already led.
In my championship week last year, I started Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and I think combined they got me over 30 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at, especially if they go even more run heavy this year, which they're talking about doing.
Mm-hmm. So,
all right. So guess what we're in? We're in round 10.
Round 10, we made it.
Finally draft a quarterback.
We can start doing that. And let me just round out the rest of round 9 after our guys pick up. James White went off the board, followed by Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Darius Slayton, J.K. Dobbins, and Tariq Cohen by Jacob Blake. Sounds like he must be listening over here. Alexander Madison's off the board. So is Jordan Howard. There's 2 more picks now coming up our way. Keyshawn Vaughn, 1 more before us. We can start thinking about quarterback. I think we should probably start thinking about quarterback. We've got a couple of exciting guys. Still up there.
So
Who do you want?
I think, for the sake of what we've got to do here, I think our best bet, it sounds crazy enough, off that elbow surgery is Big Ben. So that would be my bet, and then we can take a stab at one of the upside younger guys in the next round or after that. But we take Big Ben, who is the only guy sitting here left that we know can do it and has done it, and just really needs to be healthy after that elbow. And then we're sitting there with a guy that can throw 600 times in a season and be a top 5 QB.
Yeah, and he has the really good wide receivers around him. Like, yeah, give me Big Ben. I want that one solid quarterback that I know is going to get me, the 20 fantasy points a week, and then I'll look for
once
upside.
Again, we don't know, and that's the risk that we took by waiting this long on QB. We don't know even with Big Ben if that elbow's healthy.
Yeah.
But if you're going to look at these guys we have left, you're probably going to say, okay, Big Ben's my best legitimate shot to get to the top 5 out of who's left.
A lot of guys that you can have fun and get cute with to pair up as that
with
second
Big
quarterback.
Ben. Yeah, exactly.
We're looking at Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Phillip Rivers, Jimmy Hansen, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Gardner Minshew, even Sam Darnold mentioned before. That dude closed out the season on a freaking run, and I think he's got a better situation coming in this year. So there's a ton of quarterbacks. Based on what we just did, we didn't take a quarterback until round 10. We're the only team, I'm just going to confirm this. Excuse me, Mikey G 136. He also hasn't taken a quarterback yet. Looks like a couple, but everybody else has taken at least one. Some have taken 2, some have taken 3. And I'm still feeling pretty darn good about who is available in the quarterback pool. What do you think, Johnny?
I thought, oh yeah, go for it, Jen.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm starting to feel real comfortable with who's left. There are there are a couple of guys that I would say I feel comfortable with. But it does show the amount of depth for sure that the quarterback position has, even in a Superflex league. But I was going to ask you guys, because now we can look back, right? We could see where the majority of quarterbacks were taken in the 8th and 9th round, right? So where we took Marquis Brown and Darius Geis. Now, I know what our strategy was, and we implemented it. We did a good job. But knowing what we do know now, would you switch out Marquis Brown or Darius Geis and grab well, actually, it would have to be Marquis Brown, most likely. Would you? Go ahead.
So the only one I would consider, I think, there is Carson Wentz was taken in the 9th.
That's who I was thinking.
He's the only one I would say, okay, maybe I'm going to take, because, look, I love Aaron Rodgers. I'd love to sit here and say that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a top 5 quarterback again. We've talked about it. I think this offense is different now. And I know Josh Allen, everybody loves, but I just can't buy the fact that Josh Allen's going to be some sort of top 5 QB, because he'd need to get there based on rushing alone, in my mind. And Buffalo wants to run the football and play to their defense.
And I don't think
for me, I talked to Johnny about this. I think when you're looking at young quarterbacks, you either that can shock you and get into the top 5. You either want them to be able to be mobile, or you want them to be able to lead the league in passing attempts. That's, in my mind, I think, that because if they don't have the legs, they've got to get there in volume.
Yeah.
And for me, Josh Allen, yeah, he's mobile, but I'm not seeing where he can get there in volume too.
On that point, the one guy I like here, I like Carson Wentz. Maybe it's just because he did me dirty last year, if I'm not as excited, but I like Matt Ryan. If we're talking about just having a staple quarterback who is consistently top 5, to me.
In two quarterback leagues, I like it, because, like you're saying, you got that staple guy. You've got your pillar of a quarterback who's going to get you your points.
Matt Ryan is like a much shinier Ben Roethlisberger to me. A guy who's just a little bit more healthy, less of an injury risk. I think he's got even better receivers around. They want to throw the ball a lot. I would love to have Matt Ryan kind of as my anchor there. And then Cam Newton is another one that's like a fun, risky pick that could be a top 5 quarterback. Top 3 quarterback potentially.
Oh yeah, you know what? Brandon S with the fire comment here. Rodgers is single now, so he'll be better. LOL.
He is.
yeah, they broke up. Yeah, yesterday. Dude, they broke up. Came out yesterday. I know. They got
Daniel Jones.
I know, dude. I was crossing my fingers he was gonna make it back to us. That would have been just too perfect.
Okay, this is gonna put us in a little
Aaron Rodgers is. I feel a
little bit of a tough spot.
I know. I like them. I like them a lot.
I do like him single. I'm not gonna lie, but he's gonna go out and impress
Rodgers
people now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one so I don't get in trouble. from Chelsea listening in on this one. And instead, I'm going to go ahead and read.
Danica was so great. She had like a podcast, brought him on it and stuff. Okay, we've got 38 seconds. We've got to pick another quarterback, or I guess we could wait.
No, I think that let's just
Drew
do
Lock
it.
Sitting here, that's got the upside. I don't know if I love it.
Ryan Tannehill too. He closed out the season killing it.
He did, but we're missing.
Yeah, but
let's go with it. Give it to us. Give the people what they want. Minshew Mania, baby.
It sounds like there's a handful of quarterbacks still there.
Minshew. Let's go Minshew.
All right.
I want the upside. I want the upside.
All right. We're taking Gardner Minshew. Listen,
I love it.
Had the 13th most rushing yards for a rookie quarterback since the NFL merger last year. So, yeah, I think Gardner Minshew is being slept on as far as rushing ability. I think that team is going to need to throw in every single game.
Their defense is going to be terrible.
Their team is going to be bad.
Hey, Gardner Minshew is going to be good.
DJ Shark and yeah, I think Gardner Minshew and DJ Shark are about it for me that I like on that team. So yeah, I think that's a good bet. And look, Blake Bortles at times in Jacksonville was a top 6 quarterback. So we just need him to be our super flex. We don't need him to be that reliable, I guess. We've got a stacked team outside of him, I would say.
Yeah, so going back to my question that I had posed earlier, I would
rather have Carson Wentz
than
Marquis Brown at this point.
Yeah, so you would take. I would agree.
I'd rather have Carson Wentz than Darius Geis if we could have kept Marquis Brown, but that wasn't possible.
Yeah, I would switch Marquise Brown out with either Carson Wentz or Cam Newton, and then I would have went Deontay Johnson instead of Gardner Minshew here in the 11th. I think that would have been a very, very nice draft for us. It would have panned out really, really well, but it's okay. Like, I think that we've done a good job so far. But yeah, just hindsight, that's probably what I would do personally. Would be going with Cam or Wentz. It was interesting. I saw the reason I brought it up, or like I keep kind of thinking about Carson Wentz, is I saw a tweet today and I thought it was really interesting. It really made me think, and it said, people are tending to forget about Carson Wentz, or tend to forget that Carson Wentz was Pat Mahomes before Pat Mahomes. And they talked about before that dreaded December 2nd game, I think. December 2nd is when it happened, the injury to Carson Wentz when he was having the MVP season. And now I don't know if I would say I would put the talent level of Carson Wentz on the same talent level as Pat Mahomes, but I would say that Carson Wentz, he has just had a bad couple of seasons, and it could be kind of like the Keenan Allen effect where, things just didn't line up for him. And if it gets back to that, look out. Carson Wentz could be a real steal. I think, doing stats and statting out Carson Wentz, I talked to Travis about it, and I was like, wow, Carson Wentz could actually be a really big value that people are sleeping on.
Carson Wentz, absolutely. To me, he's like kind of an Andrew Luck of old situations. We're talking a number 2 overall drafted quarterback, just like Andrew Luck. It's just been a lot of issues with his wide receivers, but I agree with all those points.
Where we got 42 seconds left, I've got 2 suggestions, Johnny. We've got Chase Edmunds as a great backup here to get in a PPR league. I also have Henry Ruggs sitting here, who is slated to be the number 1 target in that offense, just chilling down here as a wide receiver. Jalen Reagor would have been my first pick, but he just got picked off. So we got 20 seconds. Either of those guys striking your fancy or somebody else.
Who was the first one you sent? Sorry.
Chase Edmunds.
Or who?
Henry Ruggs.
I almost would rather go Mecole Hardman over Henry Ruggs.
Ooh.
Okay, we'll take whoever you want.
Let's go, Mecole.
Mecole Hardman has that strong of a role off the bat, but
this is perfect. Okay, so this is perfect because I was watching game film on Mecole Hardman last night actually, and so here's what's really interesting. If you're looking at his game film from last year, he wasn't significantly on the field, but when he was the type of player to try. He was taking the top off of defense. He really only ran a few different routes of the route tree, right? But what they are projecting and what they showed was like towards the end of the season, they started to put him in more roles as they started taking Sammy Watkins off the field a little bit more. And what we saw was like Mecole Hardman was starting to really develop as a route runner. And what happens is you started to see towards the end of the season when he started to get some of these really big breakaway catches was because the corner they played off him because they only knew he was coming in for speed. So they played off him, and then they started running him these smaller routes. And then he would take these to the house. Like he took 10 to 15 yard catches, and he turned them into like 30-yard plays because he's so fast. And so if he continues to develop his route tree and he gets more time on the field, look out, because this guy is so difficult to guard because of how fast he is, and the fact you have Tyreek Hill on the opposite side. I would disagree with Travis in saying that Mecole Hardman, to me, out of any player that is going from rounds 10 plus, is the highest upside wide receiver that you can
get. He
get.
Wasn't the highest upside. Never said that. I said he's got his path to a role is less clear than Henry Ruggs.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, and that is true. Henry Ruggs.
Look, I love Mecole Hardman, but there are some badass motherfuckers on that Kansas City Chiefs team ahead of him on the depth chart.
Kelsey Hill, even Watkins.
Yeah,
that's it.
They're all.
Oh, Sammy Watkins! You're really gonna throw out Sammy Watkins on me? Come on.
Where was Sammy Watkins?
Mecole Hardman is the same. I don't care where Sammy Watkins was drafted. There are guys drafted number 1. Okay, you're gonna say Jamarcus Russell is better than Patrick Mahomes because he was drafted number 1? No, you're not gonna say that. Why would you do that? So I don't care about draft capital at this point. Sammy Watkins is trash. Sammy Watkins is trash.
That's fine. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What matters is snap percentage. And Sammy Watkins gets a ton of snap percentage, and I don't think that's going to change next year. As where Henry Ruggs could be that number 1 wide receiver, like after week 3, and a guy who has a similar type of upside. And you could fall into a situation because that offense over there in Las Vegas now is not the kind of efficient offense that Kansas City is going to be deploying. What I mean by that is you could have a situation where the starting quarterback for the Raiders, let's say it's Derek Carr, falls in love with Henry Ruggs III, just the way that other inferior quarterbacks like a Jay Cutler fell in love with a Brandon Marshall, or a Jameis Winston fell in love with a Mike Evans, and then throws it to triple coverage to him all the time. And that's the kind of scenario Henry Ruggs could see that Mecole Hardman is never going to see. Patrick Mahomes is never going to be like, I'm going to force feed Mecole Hardman the ball. Like, that's never going to happen.
I like the case Johnny makes for Mecole Hardman. If you're drafting a wide receiver late, you want to go for a breakout guy. There's just guys that I'm looking at still. Like, if you're not going to get a breakout guy, then there's a guy like Jalen Reagor and Henry Ruggs who both project to step into a massive amount of targets. Jalen Reagor, I know that Alshon Jeffrey and Sean Jackson exist, but all the beat writers in Philly are now saying that Jalen Reagor is going to step right into a massive role here. And Alshon Jeffrey, coming off the hip surgery, they're concerned that he's not going to be ready. So there's all sorts of things in there. So either way, Johnny's case for Mecole Hardman's great. I think it's great, but Patrick Mahomes knows how he got $503 million, and that's with the help of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce first and foremost.
Yeah.
And those two will get fed first and foremost. And then if there's extra, Mecole Hardman will be there. Whereas Henry Ruggs was drafted in the first round. Hold on a second. Can I talk? Henry Ruggs was drafted in the first round to replace Antonio Brown, who they wanted to be the number 1 guy in his offense last year. Remember when Gruden was all excited because he had Antonio Brown last year? He was so jacked in Hard Knocks. They want Henry Ruggs to be that guy. So that's my point. Henry Ruggs has been drafted to be the number 1 part, or the number 1 vein in that offense.
Henry Ruggs won't even be the number 1 rookie on his team, dude. Brandon Edward will be the number 1 rookie on that team.
Yeah, this is like your opinion coming in, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be fact.
I know, it is.
Draft capital has shown that they want it to be Henry Ruggs.
They want him as a field stretcher. They want him as a field stretcher. They don't want him as the possession wide receiver. So there's a huge difference. And yes, Jalen Reagor, I give you.
Field stretcher doesn't mean he can't be the number 1 wide receiver. Antonio Brown is historically a field stretcher, but he was still the number 1 wide receiver for all of his teams. I don't like T.Y. Hilton. The argument for T.Y. Hilton is that he's a field stretcher, so he can't be the number 1 wide receiver. No, that's not
fair point.
That means he's a more dangerous number 1 wide receiver.
Travis, Johnny, these are both real points. Whisper Nation is fortunate to hear him. We got 30 seconds left on the board now in our 13th round pick. Henry Ruggs was taken right afterwards. Deebo Samuel, James and Crowder, Ryan Tannehill. We talked about him too. Ravens defense, Bills defense. Henry Hooper. Who we taking? 20 seconds left.
Chase Edmunds, Johnny?
Yeah, that's cool.
Or we've got some other guys there.
Chase Edmunds
no?
mentioned him before.
No, Chase Edmunds is fine.
The only other guy I was thinking was maybe Tony Pollard.
I was thinking Antonio Gibson would have been my only other one, but he went right after. But that's fine. Chase Edmunds, good. I love Chase Edmunds' talent a lot. So.
Yeah, we still got inconsistencies over there. Kenyon Drake balled out, but it's still one of those scenarios where we don't know exactly what Kliff Kingsbury's about. We don't know exactly what that backfield situation is. And I think that having Chase Edmunds come in there at the 13th round, it's a nice pickup. I want to touch in on some of the comments we heard coming in. First off, the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always great to have you here. Thanks for that. Kuma highlights. He said, put some respect on Matt Ryan's name from before. He's a quarterback one. People are sleeping on him heavily. If we're saying a quarterback one, like he's in the top 10 of quarterbacks, yeah. He's going to be a top 10. Mm-hmm. But is he a QB1 like a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes or a QB1? Absolutely not. So really respectable player. Would love to have him on my team, especially drafting him late. But that depends on your definition of QB1 if he falls in there for me.
We got a lot of people chit-chatting right now in the chat room, and it's looking great. Trying to catch up on all of these stuff.
So, are we taking a kicker in defense, or are we going to try and pick some more skill position guys that we like?
If you see one you like, go for it. But in this mock, if we have some more wide receivers or running backs that we could talk about on these ones, I think that it would benefit Whisper Nation the most to talk about those different players as we bring in, unless there is a kicker or defense that especially stands out as someone who shouldn't have fallen this late, but did. That's my 2 cents, as we are now on the clock. What do you think, Johnny?
So I'm trying to I like the Boston Scott pick right before us. Brandon's got some good couple picks here in the later rounds.
I'd suggest Justin Jefferson, another guy that should be slated for a ton of work this season.
Yeah, I'm down to go with this strategy that we like to implement a lot, and that is skipping on the kicker and defense.
Like Sterling Shepard is sitting here too. Good path for him to be the number 1 wide receiver on his team. So I'd be in between those two.
Just in the chat we had let's go and take the pick, and then I want to address El Costell's point that he made in the YouTube chat. So
Johnny,
let's go ahead. We got 10 seconds left.
Shepard or Jefferson?
I would go Shepard. Going to be a higher volume in New York, and he is the number 1 over the number 2 for Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I think as we get closer to the year, and this may or may not be a thing, but I am getting spooked off of drafting a lot more rookies just based on a COVID offseason and not getting the reps that you would normally get in an offseason.
I'm always nervous drafting rookie wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're nervous as it is, but now we're talking about a system where we're not going to even get preseason. So we're going to talk about, they could still do it, but maybe it's even later than we've seen. And so I've just been kind of lately in mocks or in my thinking and my research, I've been kind of looking at maybe it's the year of just pumping the brakes a little bit more on rookies than normal.
Stretch on. I agree with that point, Big Travie. And El Costel 51 says, easy to pick sleepers late if we aren't going to do kickers and defense. This is a turning early season. I would bypass kickers and defense. I think that the important part also to note here is when we are drafting. And if you were, say, drafting for an actual team right now, I would not pick up a kicker or a defense. I would take more of those backup players that could be coming through as training camp and storylines develop. Defenses and kickers, you can rotate those out any week anyways, and there's going to be a top 5 sitting on the waiver wire. I promise you that. But we don't know necessarily who's going to be the other starting wide receivers, who the official handcuff is at the running back position. So I think at this point in July, you do yourself a service by just passing kicker and defense and planning to snag them in the waiver wire later on.
And the reason that we also like to do it too is because it allows us an opportunity to talk about more, more wide receivers or running backs that could potentially, win you your league. So that's why we like to do it, because like you said, you're most likely going to stream your defense from week to week, and your kicker, you'll end up dropping on the bye week to pick up a new kicker most likely anyway. So we want to try to give you the best value possible during these mock drafts. And so that's just something we like to do. We understand it is frustrating when some people don't do it and you're trying to mock draft for real. We totally get that. And we will do some mock drafts where we, if it's a lot of people in a giant mock draft, like last week we did a 16-teamer and we took a defense and a kicker in that because of the format. We wanted to stay true to that. But in a 10-teamer, you seriously want to look for upside here and not limit yourself.
I want to give out 1 point because this was something that was really a part of my own fantasy football origins or discovery, and it kind of goes up with Pimpin' Ain't Easy just said here. Counter to Josh A. Josh A says, much more beneficial to stream, in my opinion. Pimpin' Ain't Easy comes in and says, I streamed all last year and would have much rather had a guy like Tucker or Butker. So we're in year 10 of our fantasy league of record. We got a lot of stats to reference. And I had been of the streaming mindset as well. I streamed all my kickers. I streamed all my defenses. I thought I was the big smart shit on campus. And that's what I did all the time. But then what I did was I went back and I averaged out all of my stream defenses and all of my streamed kickers and saw where their average output was and where that ranked on the scale. And it was like number 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, and it was like, if I can grab a kicker or a defense and I'm very confident is top 5, I do myself a service by doing that. Points are points. And if I'm averaging 8 or 9 versus 3 or 4 because I went early and grabbed the Patriots defense or Harrison Butker, like I would rather do that than snag a Mecole Hardman, who are probably not going to be stoked to start any week.
I would disagree because how often do you like New England Patriots defense last year? You got them off the waiver wire. You didn't draft them in most cases. The year before that was the Chicago Bears defense.
The turnover in defense is
significant. And then on kickers as well, Butker. Yeah, you say Butker is great, but guess what? 2 years ago, same thing. Butker was not a kicker that you got in that you drafted. He was a free agent. And same with Justin Tucker 2 years. Yeah,
That's
is.
not true at all.
Look it up. 2 years ago.
Butker last year was going undrafted.
No. I said 2 years ago, where he was a really solid kicker. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying you're going to get the
good
number
pick,
one guy.
by the way, Duke Johnson. I like that one.
Yeah,
although
I
do like A.J. Dillon and Naheem Hines as well.
I looked at A.J. Dillon. The only reason I didn't take A.J. Dillon is because it's PPR. He's not a pass catcher by nature.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that Naheem Hines I could get the role, but Duke Johnson's already got a role, and they're talking about using him in the slot. I'm going to take Duke Johnson.
Dude, Duke Johnson is a running back that people don't talk about how good he is. Like, he is legitimately a very good running back when you're looking at across the board at his metrics. He is a stud running back. He's just never been given a chance, similar to Kenyon Drake. And what I had been saying about Kenyon Drake all off season last year, if that guy got a chance and got an opportunity, he will show that he is a good football player. And we could see the same thing happen with Duke Johnson this year if anything were to happen with David Johnson, or if that were to not go the way that Bill O'Brien wanted to and they had to turn to Duke Johnson. I think he could get the job done.
Definitely could. So we're closing out the end of this draft. Our 15th round is coming to an end. Thank you all to everybody who's participated and everybody who's joined us on the live stream on YouTube. Here's how we finish these ones out. We're going to go through the other teams. We're going to give our draft grades. I'm going to ask Johnny. I'm going to ask Travis. This team's what's their strength, what's their weakness, and what's your overall grade. Let us know what you think of these teams as well in the chat. And fun drafting. Congrats, guys. Another one done.
Yeah.
I'm liking this squad. First thoughts on our team. We did the upside down-ish. We didn't take a quarterback until round 10 in a Superflex 10 Team PPR. We went 3 wide receivers to start it off with. Travis, what's your first impression of our team before we get to the draft grades for everybody else?
Yeah, we waited a little too long for my liking on quarterback, especially in a Superflex. But I did like, with that in mind, we knew we were going to maybe take some lumps in that category and wait as long as we had to. I thought we made a killer roster here. The running back and wide receiver depth that we have is really on point here, and we've got huge upside in both categories. So should be able to carry the team, especially if we can get a healthy season out of Big Ben. Then this team is looking really stacked. Love the Darren Waller pick in the 6th round just to really solidify the tight end position. It was that right before that break at tight end. If you notice, in the 6th, we took Waller, and then another tight end wasn't taken, looks like until the 10th. So we really got the last bit of goods at the tight end position, and then they were able to round out the roster. So I was pretty proud of our effort here. I thought we got some good upside picks in the back end. Once again, not a huge fan of waiting until double-digit rounds in a super flex league for QB.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would have probably taken our quarterback a little bit earlier, like Travis alluded to. But other than that, I'm really excited about this team and what you can do. And this is what's great about people who are reviewing this later is if they really like, because man, there were some times we were really stacking some value there, and it was great. So yeah, that's good. But I'm excited to grade some of these other teams.
Me too. Let's get started we started with number 1 last week. Let's go to number 10. We'll start at the end here with our number 1 fan, Jacob Blay, who took Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes.
Your favorite double dip.
And then Russell Wilson in the third.
That's nasty.
Wow,
that's nasty, dude.
That's a nasty dual quarterback combo there. So Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, Cam Akers, Calvin Ridley, Stefon Diggs, Will Fuller, J.K. Dobbins, Tariq Cohen, Christian Kirk, Latavius Murray, Anthony Miller, Tony Pollard, and Jonnu Smith. Big Travie. Strengths, weakness as an overall grade for Jacob Blay, who took at the backside of the draft, pick number 10.
The strengths are obviously in the quarterback category. Yeah. You've got Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. Took 2 of his first 3 picks there. Even really liked what he did with wide receiver. I think the running backs are a little shaky here. Chris Carson, I love. Cam Akers has all the upside in the world, but we're still not very sure. They drafted Darrell Henderson just last year. They also still have Malcolm Brown on the roster. That's 3 running backs we've seen them actually try to like it in the last year. So that one concerns me. And then what he did to try and make up for running back in the back end. I love Dobbins' upside, but still doesn't have a solidified role out the gate. Tariq Cohen in a PPR, that one's going to be okay. That one might save him a little bit here. The wide receivers, though, very solid. Tariq Hill, obviously a stud. Calvin Ridley is just primed and ready for a breakout and to be that touchdown guy every year since Julio Jones is not. Stefon Diggs, don't love this pick, but I love that he paired it with Will Fuller, whose upside is through the roof right now with DeAndre Hopkins out of town. If Will Fuller just stays healthy, we've got some fireworks going on there. So, I think it was a solid team. And then Jonah Smith, man, in the 16th, or in the 15th, it was like Jacob was just saying, look, I can wait. You guys are talking about tight end up here in the 6th. I can wait until the very end and draft one. And he did. And Jonah Smith, I thought that was a solid pick.
And I honestly think Jonah Smith could be the Darren Waller of this year. So
I was just going to say that.
I love, and hey, it's not a surprise here. Jacob Blay he did purchase our draft kit. So he's definitely been reading a lot about that. He's been texting or DMing us. So
you guys can all purchase that as well over at thefantasywhispers.com. Get Jacob.
I put a link in the description below, so you can just check the description below, and there's a link to our draft kit there. It is only $15.
So we'll hold off for your grade for just a second, Big Trav. Johnny, though, on Jacob Blay's team, strengths, weaknesses, anything Travis left out?
No, I think Travis nailed it on the head. I like this team. I understand that. I would agree with the assessment of the slight knock on the running backs. Even though we do have Cam Akers ranked really high in our draft kit, I am just I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest with you. But I think his team is going to be just fine. And of course, we haven't gone through everyone's team right now, but I have to give this at least an A- right now, with the ability to possibly change my mind to an A. You guys got to give me that right because we're just starting off. But I would with those 2 quarterbacks, oh goodness gracious, it's going to be hard to beat this team.
What about you, Travis? What's your grade?
B+. The running backs do kind of scare me a little bit off of it. I will say though, in the Dobbins pick and the Latavius Murray and Tony Pollard picks, great picks if you're going to take guys that are backups, those are the backups to take. Those are the handcuffs to take in Latavius Murray and Tony Pollard. So he saves a little bit of grace there. I'll give him a B+. The running backs just concerned me just a little bit.
Yeah, the running backs there, even at the top, like Chris Carson, he's nice, but it's coming off that hip issue, and Cam Akers might not be the guy. So I'm going to go a little bit even lower. I'm going to go with a B there. The quarterbacks are really, really nice, but there's so little stability at the running back position and something that's hard to make up for later. But this is also a team you're not surprised that this thing wins a championship because of that top heavy in those wide receivers and those 2 quarterbacks. Like, you can't underestimate what a quarterback can get you.
Right.
Moving on, Easy Daddy, thank you again for joining the show. Love having you at a part. And just want to take, if you didn't check out last week's mock draft in round 13, when we started off Benny Snell conversation, auto drafted by Easy Daddy, it produced a hallmark tidbit for us that we really enjoyed last year, where Johnny and Travis reached through the camera and strangled each other. It was awesome. So I'm going to run down this team.
It'd be great for Johnny to relive that when Benny Snell is the
or for when Travis can't live that down, and I'm right on the Anthony McFarland.
Yeah,
we'll pause on this fight until later in the pay-per-view contract comes in. Working down Easy Daddy's team, he took round 1 Lamar Jackson, first QB off the board. Josh Jacobs and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, rounds 2 and 3. Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, followed by Drew Brees. A couple of running backs in Ronald Jones and Tevin Coleman. Picks up Darius Slayton, back to the running back in Alexander Madison. Back-to-back tight ends in Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook, Justin Tucker at the kicker spot, Emmanuel Sanders, and the Chargers defense to round it out. We started with Travi last time. We're going to start with Johnny. Johnny, Easy Daddy's team. What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? What's your overall grade?
For our whole end of draft discussion, I will just say right now, his kicker and defense are very good. So he did a good job there in drafting those guys. I like his tight end upside there. They're really solid. I don't think that either one of those guys will crack into the top 5 at the position, but they are both solid tight ends that I think will range between tight end 5 and 10. Now, looking at some of the other positions, Lamar Jackson, obviously stud running back, a quarterback, wherever you want to put him, this is good. Super strength.
Put some respect on his name.
Yeah, apparently.
Quarterback.
Yeah. Not bad for a running back. That's what he told me. So I'm just quoting him. But I will say there are some question marks, right? Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, and Darius Slayton are definitely 3 good wide receivers. But when you're starting to compare them to other teams' 3 wide receivers, that makes me a little nervous. And then you're looking at the running back room. Definitely high upside for sure. I would give this team a B for me. Or wait, I was supposed to wait on my grade, wasn't I? Until
we'll go. You give him a B. Travis, strengths, weaknesses, and your overall grade.
I think similar to Jacob's team, this is probably a strength at quarterback just because of Lamar Jackson. Don't think he's got much strength anywhere else. He's kind of good everywhere else, as Johnny kind of talked about. The running back's kind of good. I love CEH, but we still just don't know. We talked about the COVID offseason. Love Josh Jacobs. I think that's a strong pick in the second to pair with the Lamar Jackson. The wide receivers, look, I know you guys are going to sit here and tell me how they're undervalued. They're just good. They're good wide receivers. The Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, they're good. Nothing's flashy to me here. Love Darius Slayton's upside in the 9th. That's really nice. The tight ends, you got a couple shots at doing it. This team is just kind of good for me. I'm going to say a B-. It's not wowing me off the page, but it did okay. Could even argue a little bit of a C+ here, but
I'm gonna go B+ on this team for me, and I think it's one of those squads where you're hoping to make a trade throughout the season to give yourself a really shiny spot somewhere else. But you put up every position. You pair his quarterbacks up with another team's quarterbacks, another team's running backs, another team's wide receivers. There's not a single week where you're surprised if his running backs outperform his opponents, his wide receivers outperform his opponents, his quarterbacks outperform his opponents. Does he have the best? No. Is he above average at every single position, top to bottom? Yeah, he is. So if he can get a hit and he can get something else, I think he set himself up in a really a stable, good position here. Is this team not making the playoffs?
I think it will. I think it will.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what I like to talk about.
How many?
Yeah, if we only do a 4-team playoff in this one, yeah.
4-team playoff.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on then, we have Mile High Stello taking Devontae Adams with his first pick, then a couple of running backs, Miles Sanders and David Johnson. First quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Tight end, Zach Ertz. Matt Stafford's off the board, and so is his wide receiver, Marvin Jones. Josh Allen there for 3 quarterbacks. He's got some options now. Michael Gallup is gone. Jordan Howard, Hayden Hurst, Zach Moss, the rookie out of Buffalo, Preston Williams, Harrison Butker, and Tyrell Williams there to close out. Man, Tyrell Williams, it surprises me he's going that freaking late. But we started with Johnny on the last one. We're going to go with Travis here. Strengths, weaknesses, and what's your overall grade for Mile High Stello here, who drafted the 8th spot?
I think his strengths are. I hate to quit saying that, or I hate to keep saying this, but I think it's quarterback again. I think he drafted early in quarterback. I love Matthew Stafford's upside. We've talked about him multiple times on the show. And Deshaun Watson has literally got a coach who has made their team the Madden team this year by getting all field stretchers and saying, look, screw DeAndre Hopkins. We're just going to get a bunch of guys and let you do whatever the hell you want. You're all going to run 4 verticals, and then if nobody's open, you're going to run it. Deshaun Watson could easily get a ton of yardage running the football this year. Zach Ertz, I think, is a solid pick. Devontae Adams to anchor his wide receiver core. But I think after Matthew Stafford is where this team kind of really stopped making some great selections here. Marvin Jones, love, if you're getting him later, not as your number 2 wide receiver. I don't really love that. Michael Gallup, once again, not as your, number 2, number 3 wide receiver. Josh Allen, why did you take a third quarterback? You actually could have taken another running back here. Raheem Mostert was available. Marquis Brown was sitting there. So you could have had some skill position players. I just think the roster construction after the 6th, for me, kind of fell off a little bit. And for me, I don't think he did enough in the later rounds to make up for it. So for me, I'd say like a C+ here.
Johnny, strengths, weaknesses, and what's your overall grade?
Well, I think Travis did a really nice breakdown there. What I would say is, although I do love Matthew Stafford this year, taking him at the 603 spot, Travis said, taking Josh Allen was, he wouldn't have done that. I would have argued that instead of taking Matthew Stafford, you take a DJ Chark or Amari Cooper or a Tyler Lockett.
You would have liked this roster a lot better had that been the case.
Yeah. And then, and I, even looking at the board, you could say that if you really are that high on Matthew Stafford, you could have had Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson still, but where you drafted Josh Allen. So if you did want to go, we're super high on Matthew Stafford, you could have done that, and I would have liked this team a lot more. I would agree with the grading as well for that Big Travis had.
What was that?
You said
C-.
C-.
Or C+.
C+.
This one reminds me kind of what you said, Travis, with Easy Daddy's teams. Like, everybody's just kind of good. Everybody here to me is just kind of eh. It's like you take Devontae Adams. I love him, but I would have rather had like a Michael Thomas. And Miles Sanders, David Johnson is your 1-2. It could be good, but I'm just not as optimistic about the outcomes on this one, and lower upside, lower floor for me. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Moving on now to Fantasy Fortune, who's been on a hot streak as of late. He has drafted at the 7th position and started off with Dalvin Cook, followed by Kenyon Drake. He took us right from out from under us. Back-to-back quarterbacks here, and Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott, and then a run of wide receivers. A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Devontae Parker. Very nice. Followed by Raheem Mostert, Brandon Cooks, Keyshawn Vaughn, Deontay Johnson, Evan Ingram, Steelers defense, Will Lutz, and closes draft out with Darrell Henderson Jr. I don't think it's a surprise that this is a pretty darn good-looking team right here. We'll let Johnny kick it off here. Strengths, weaknesses, and what's your overall grade for FF Fortune, who drafted in the 7th position?
This whole team is a strength. Like, this is the best team for sure. As long as Dalvin Cook doesn't hold out into the season, did he grab Alexander Madison on here? No, but he has Raheem Mostert, which actually came out today that Raheem Mostert was in discussions with the 49ers coaches, someone who is going to have an effect on or could tell him what his role is and could try to fix his paycheck, and so that's looking like that situation could get fixed. So even with that, I think that this team is just absolutely insane. Like, this is really good. You got 2 really solid quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, in my personal opinion, I think he'll finish as the QB1 overall this year. Dak Prescott finished as a top quarterback or top 3 quarterback last year. You guys all know how much I love A.J. Brown. I'm not a big fan of Amari Cooper, but I will say, like, right before we took Darren Waller, and he had taken Amari Cooper, I looked on there. I was like, how is Amari Cooper still available? And I would have tried to talk, as crazy as this sounds, I would have really tried to talk Travis and Amari Cooper over Darren Waller if he was there, because I as much as I don't like him as a wide receiver, I think he's unstable from week to week. I will tell you, he's going to have over 1,000 yards receiving. You can count on that. So, yeah, this team is great. I would A+ for sure. I don't see a single. I don't see a single.
Yeah,
weakness.
I don't know if I'd go an A+. I think the wide receivers they've got upside for days, but I think there's arguments to be made on A.J. Brown's case that there may not be enough volume in the Tennessee offense.
Oh,
to
don't
produce
you be
a year
giving me
similar.
that.
I mean, it's a very good argument. The Tennessee lived not only on high efficiency as a passing offense, but they lived on touchdowns as a passing offense.
Remember when we said the same thing?
Rate.
Remember when we said the same thing about Russell Wilson?
Yeah, okay. Is Ryan Tannehill Russell Wilson now, Johnny?
No, but I'm saying you said this offense.
Anyways, Amari Cooper
said this offense.
Yeah, which is fueled by Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, who is not Russell Wilson. Let me just remind everybody that.
I'm not trying to say he's Russell Wilson.
Okay. Amari Cooper is another one who you just said, like, up and down. Devontae Parker has done it one time in his career. We've been asking for him to do it one time. He did it last year. So for me, I think this team is stacked. It's the best team we reviewed so far. I think it gets an A- in my opinion. I think it's really good. It's probably definitely the best team. And I love the upside picks in the back end. I want to talk a little bit about that. Raheem Mostert in the 8th round. Johnny talked about it. Brandon Cooks in the 9th. Brandon Cooks could easily be the number 1 wide receiver in Houston. Field stretcher with Deshaun Watson, perfect. Keyshawn Vaughn, who could be slide right into a role with Tom Brady as the quarterback. Deontay Johnson, we talked last week at length about Deontay Johnson. And then this one's huge for me. Evan Ingram in the 12th round. That's a huge pick for me here. He rounded out this offense. I mean, he just did. Every pick was good. Every pick was good across the board. A-. The only question I have a little bit on is the wide receiver core, just a tiny bit. But other than that, love it.
Yeah, I think that everything there was a really smart, wise pick. I don't see any mistakes here, and I like how Travis there highlighted some of the gems that he found further down. Brandon Cooks, that could be a freaking super steal if that's Deshaun Watson's favorite target, a guy who always gets 1,000 yards. They went out and got him. They got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. We're expecting Will Fuller to be that guy, but it very well could be Brandon Cooks, and I love that he got him after Will Fuller was taken. So he got the value on that piece. And then we were talking about Evan Ingram potentially being in the same category as Darren Waller. Health is his big concern, but Evan Ingram is another wide receiver who plays the tight end position. And let's be honest, Darius Slayton right now is the number 1 wide receiver in the Giants. You got Golden Tate and you got Sterling Shepard. And Evan Ingram is probably the most talented guy out there. If he can stay healthy, that all of a sudden becomes Daniel Jones's favorite aerial weapon, and he got him in the 12th round. Mm-hmm. That's really smart drafting. I'm just gonna give him an A. Moving down, Brandon Stan, 26, takes Derrick Henry at the 6th spot, followed by Joe Mixon. Adam Thielen is his number 1 wide receiver. Todd Gurley II is his 3rd running back. Mark Andrews is his tight end. A couple of wide receivers, then in DJ Shark and T.Y. Hilton. Nice combo there. Aaron Rodgers is his 1st quarterback. James White's off the board. Joe Burrow is his 2nd quarterback. Julian Edelman, Jalen Reagor, Antonio Gibson, Boston Scott, and the Buccaneers defense to close it out. Big Travie, strengths, weaknesses. What's your overall grade for Brandon Stan, 26?
I'm going to say his strengths are running backs, which is kind of one of the beefs I have with this team. These running backs are great. If you're in a standard-only league, I think they're really great. But we're in a PPR league, and you've got legitimate questions on the usage of the receiving attributes of all 3 of these backs. Like, yes, I know Todd Gurley should get used in Atlanta as the receiving back, but there's still questions that they want to use him because that's the reason Los Angeles got rid of him. They stopped using him as a receiver because of his knee. Joe Mixon has never really been a career wide receiver out of the running back position. Derrick Henry, we know he gets 300 carries, but he doesn't catch out of the backfield as much as we'd like. So that's my only concern with the running backs, who I thought were stud running backs, though. But then I liked what he did with wide receiver. I don't particularly love Adam Thielen this year because I think they're going to move him outside, and he's never fared well. But he is grandfathered into a ton of work in that offense, so that should alone help him be the wide receiver one you want him to be. DJ Shark and T.Y. Hilton. We argued about T.Y. Hilton, but as your third wide receiver, I kind of love this right here.
I'm fine.
DJ Shark, super huge upside there. And then Mark Andrews, man, I was gushing over Mark Andrews earlier. 46% snap share last year, and he was the tight end 5 or tight end 3. I mean, that's on 46% of the snaps. Hayden Hurst was still there. Hayden Hurst is gone now. Mark Andrews will be the number one receiving option in that offense, even ahead of Marquis Brown. So I love his upside. And then I just felt like he missed the boat on quarterback here. He could have gone Matt Ryan instead of Aaron Rodgers. I thought Matt Ryan's probably the safer bet here. He could have gone another quarterback in the 9th instead of James White, who I think James White's is fine, but you stacked 3 running backs. So you could have gone a quarterback here and rounded out your roster. Don't know what the strategy was completely there, but I think that's where it kind of just a little bit of the weakness is quarterback here for me, because you ended up having to go with Joe Burrow, which I will make one little case for Joe Burrow. Ran quite a bit in college, so we could actually see some mobility out of Joe Burrow this year, which could save him in a kind of shady offensive line. All that being said, B+ for me with Brandon's team here. I think he did a solid job here. I just can't put him some of the other teams drafted ahead of him that were better.
All right, great breakdown, Travie. How about you, Johnny? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses in your overall grade? Brandon Stan 26's squad.
Yeah, I think that the tight end and the wide receivers are definitely the strength. The running backs are solid, but Travis made great points on all those running backs lacking the receiving work. And it's funny because he took James White, and I actually think I'm actually more of a fan of James White now that Cam Newton is there. But yeah, to me, the whole thing with this is just the quarterbacks, because Aaron Rodgers, I'm just super down on him. He's not a real volume guy. He's not going to give you a ton of yardage. Rarely goes over throwing 250 passing yards. Whereas, like you said, Matt Ryan, who got taken as the next quarterback, that's what he averages is 300 yards. He rolls out of bed and throws 300 yards.
They have to.
Yeah. So and I actually don't mind the Joe Burrow pick as the quarterback, as the upside guy, because I do think that there is maybe an outside shot that Joe Burrow actually could be a top 12, maybe 10th overall quarterback at the end of the year because of all the weapons that they have. But again, it's just the fact that you got the Aaron Rodgers, and this is a 2 quarterback league. And yeah, we're kind of dealing with the same thing ourselves, but I just feel like our situations are a little bit more solid. So I think B+ hits it on the head. He's got some nice upside picks here near the end. Jalen Reagor really like. Antonio Gibson and Boston.
Those wide receivers and running backs really carry the B+ grade for me. The running backs, I talked that mess on them, but they're great running backs. They're great running backs to have. If you're going to have running backs that can't catch, have volume guys, and that's kind of what he got. So not to interrupt there, Johnny, but I think the B+ is the reason why, because he did draft good skill position guys. It's just didn't get to that edge of A without, trying to draft a little bit better at quarterback.
Yep.
And it said in the chat, probably would have gone Matt Ryan in a real draft, but I'm also a huge Rodgers guy.
Oh, okay.
We understand that. You can see the cheese.
I love Aaron Rodgers.
Right here for me.
Yeah, look at
we love that.
Totally you could eat that. You could eat that piece of cheese, Austin.
Yeah, it looks like it's melting on that lamp, dude. It looks like it's starting to melt a little bit.
Those are just bites I've taken out every week now for the last couple of years. You should have seen it then. It was even bigger. Crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with the takes on these ones. I'm never going to be taking a rookie quarterback when I could. I'd rather have a Sam Darnold or a Ryan Tannehill than Joe Burrow right now. Guys who finished the end of the season last year just on fire runs, and we have no freaking idea what Joe Burrow and the last place Cincinnati Bengals are actually about. I get the allure. I like it. It's a dynasty pick, but
I'll keep talking about it till I'm blue in the face. But COVID offseason, Joe Burrow has not been working with this offense. He is a rookie coming in. Yes, I heard that he's advanced in the playbook, but who is he? Is he handing off to Joe Mixon right now? No, he's not. He's not getting those reps. So
most definitely. And before we jump on to the next one, we've got Purple Waves giving FF Fortune a shout out here. Says you guys need to give FF Fortune a spot in the league. The past 2 teams he's drafted have been fire.
Yeah.
Easy agrees. Yes, FF Fortune has drafted like fire. And next week, though, we're going to have an opportunity to actually be in our listeners league. Next week, we're going to do the same time. Whoever gets the highest draft grade is going to receive an invitation to be a part of our Fantasy Whispers Listeners League. Would love to have you join, so stay tuned for those details coming up, because it's going to be a special one next week. Moving on now, jumping over our team. We talked about it enough. Going to my favorite team name ever, the Cat's Pajamas. At the 4th spot takes Ezekiel Elliott. In the 2nd round goes DeAndre Hopkins. A couple of running backs then, Aaron Jones and James Conner. DJ Moore, David Montgomery, Terry McLaurin, going back and forth different positions, like it. Matt Ryan, Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, 2nd quarterback, Matt Breida, Henry Ruggs, the 3rd, Austin Hooper is his tight end, nice in the 13th, San Francisco 49ers defense, and Justin Jefferson to close out his draft. Johnny, strengths, weaknesses, and your overall grade for the Cat's Pajamas.
Strengths are definitely the running back position. I understand, Aaron Jones, I'm not the biggest fan of this year, and James Conner, there's the injury concern there, but where he got them, I actually don't mind, and pairing them, considering like Ezekiel Elliott is your number 1 running back, so you're just looking for your number 2. I would take those running backs any day of the week, and then grab Matt Breida way down. So I love the running backs that he grabbed. Wide receivers are studs. Hopkins, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Jarvis Landry. Fan of all of those guys. So I would even say wide receiver is another strength. This team was very similar in that they waited on quarterback, got Matt Ryan and Baker Mayfield. So Matt Ryan going to be very, very consistent and solid from week to week. Baker Mayfield is that hope to be the high-end guy. Now, I will say with this offense, I do expect Baker Mayfield to be really, really efficient. However, there are going to be games where Baker Mayfield throws the ball 10 to 15 times, and that's the name of the game. They are going to run the ball and play good defense. That's what they want to do, and Baker Mayfield will take his shots, but it will it'll be week to week on that one. So overall, and grab some really good high upside rookie wide receivers later on the draft. I think that this is a really solid team as well. I would say an A- here.
What about you, Travi? Strengths, weaknesses, overall grade.
Yeah, this team, the only weakness I see is Austin Hooper, but he got him in the 13th, so I thought that was a really good pick. Like you waited on tight end, you ended up getting Austin Hooper in the 13th. I saw a lot in the chat that it was between FF Fortune and the Cat's Pajamas. Look, when FF Fortune gets out of bed, he's looking at a poster of the Cat's Pajamas team right now. Like he is wearing the Cat's Pajamas pretty much to bed, because this team is the best team that we've seen, probably going to be the best team in this draft. Top to bottom, it's really good. And then he was able to do it quarterback. What I kind of wished when we were talking about Brandon's team would have done at quarterback when he went a little bit later at quarterback. He ended up getting Baker Mayfield, who I trust a whole lot more than Burrow, and Matt Ryan, who I trust in fantasy a whole lot more than Aaron Rodgers. So I thought that this team is well put together from top to bottom, and I want every part of this. This is an A for me out the gate.
Yeah, I don't see any weaknesses on here. Not only no weaknesses, but you got some shiny pieces. Like when we talked about some of the other teams, like, you're good everywhere. Cat's Pajamas is good everywhere and is very good in some spots. You got Ezekiel Elliott and DeAndre Hopkins. You got a couple of elites up there at the top of your rosters over there. And then the backup, the supporting cast is very, very good. DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin is your 3rd. And I love the late strategy quarterback play and getting a staple like Matt Ryan's and a fun upside play in Baker Mayfield. I thought it was really well played and almost like a nearly perfectly executed draft, especially as you go deep down. 49ers defense super late. That's noteworthy. And then like Travis said, Austin Hooper there. We know he's in a new team, but it was the number 1 tight end before he went down last year. We know we got Njoku, a lot of other pieces, but the Browns went out and got him. It's a talented guy, and he got him in the 13th. So no holes there with some really, really shiny upside. If this isn't an A team for me, I don't really know what would be. So it's him and FF Fortune right there for the top 2, as far as I see it. Moving on now to we got 3 left. We've got Mikey G136. Drafting at the 3rd spot and hits the running backs hard. Goes Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Leonard Fournette finally picks up a wide receiver with Cooper Kupp, back to running backs at Devin Singletary. DK Metcalf is his number 2 wide receiver. Damian Williams is his 16th running back. AJ Green then at the wide receiver position again. Rob Gronkowski at tight end. Daniel Jones is his first quarterback. Deebo Samuel, Hunter Henry, New England Patriots defense, Young Ho Koo. We don't need a second quarterback because Sam Darnold's on the waiver wire. Whatever. There we go. Big Travie. Strengths, weaknesses.
I was
overall
starting to
grade
love
here
this
from Mikey G.
team. I was starting to love this team. You know, Austin's rattling off these picks. I like these running backs right off the board, like 4 running backs. Love the stack here. And then he did some decent work at wide receiver too.
Yeah.
But then no second quarterback. Took a couple tight ends. Rob Gronkowski, I think, is being overdrafted this year.
Yeah.
I understand the chemistry. I understand we love the name. I understand this guy chugs beers and he's a professional wrestler and he's a lot of fun. He's going into a crowded wide receiving room that is just a stud at wide receiving room, and he hasn't played football in over a year. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that where he's being drafted.
Maybe it's because it was an auto-drafted team. Maybe.
Oh, that might be why.
I think it was. At least Josh A is saying that it was. I think that might have been kind of right. I think he joined.
Well, then that makes that makes more sense.
That does.
Because Deebo Samuel was also selected here. So no need to carry on here.
Yeah.
C- for me on this team.
Yeah, I would actually.
You like the AJ Green pick though.
I know.
Yeah, I liked what was going on here at wide receiver for having to do them late. Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, AJ Green as your 3rd wide receiver. Not bad.
Yeah, no.
I actually love the 9, 10, 11 combo. I think that's my favorite one for this auto draft. AJ, Rob Gronkowski, Daniel Jones, all late, all these ones there. Maybe I'm just looking for fun. Johnny, anything you say? Are we good to move on?
We're good to move on.
Reed's daddy.
Yeah,
all right,
Reed's daddy.
Reed's daddy, number 2 pick, takes Saquon Barkley. Chris Godwin is his first.
Wait, I just have to say this is great. We got Reed's daddy and then Reed back to back here. Who's gonna win?
Yeah,
is
that'll
his
be.
Dad gonna bend him over his knee here and spank his team, or what's going on here?
Or is
Sorry,
carry on the new generation's about?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go.
Who's your daddy, Reed? Who's your daddy?
Let's find out. Let's find out who's putting who to bed. So Saquon Barkley was taken number 2 overall, followed by Chris
I think
Godwin,
if you're gonna do
George
that,
Kittle.
we have to go head to head with it. We can't do one versus the. It's got to be. We got to go across the board with this. We got to compare these teams. If we're gonna come out with that much fire, we gotta be comparing these teams from the get go.
Well, let Austin finish the thing, and then
all
we'll
right,
go
all
to
right,
the
all
next
right.
one.
All right, let me get
Austin,
this one down. You know what? Let's do it. Let's break it down. We'll break down Reed's daddy, then we'll break down Reed Tyler, and then we can talk about them comparatively head to head.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this breakdown. Now we got Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, George Kittle at the tight end position. Juju Smith-Schuster is his 2nd wide receiver. Melvin Gordon, the 3rd, 2nd running back. Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton. Took a couple of quarterbacks in, and Tom Brady, Carson Wentz. Sony Michel and Phillip Lindsay off the board. Jamison Crowder in the 12th. The Bills defense, Greg Zuerlein's his kicker, and Jerry Jeudy is his 15th round pick. Interesting. All right, Johnny, you got a lot to say here. Strengths, weaknesses. What's your overall grade for Reed's daddy?
I love this team. I think it's underrated. You look at Saquon. We all made the argument that he could be the number 1 overall fantasy running back. Chris Godwin, we saw how we have him ranked as our number 2 fantasy wide receiver overall. George Kittle, talked about him as potentially hoping he would fall to us in the 3rd. So he gets one of those elite tight ends. And then talk about wide receivers that are stacked. Chris Godwin, Juju, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton are your 4 wide receivers. Yes, sign me up. And then you look at he took the quarterbacks perfect position. Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, both guys have tremendous upside in my eyes. Both guys are top 10 quarterbacks. And then even look at these running backs near the end here, Sony Michel and Phillip Lindsay. Now he paired Melvin Gordon, so he got that whole entire Denver Broncos backfield, which will run a lot. And Sony Michel, I'm a fan, even though this isn't PPR, but you're getting him 10th round, a guy that's going to get 200 plus touches. And Buffalo Bills, I think they're the best defense. Greg the Leg Zuerlein, I think he's one of the best kickers. This is an underrated team. No one has said in this chat. I would take this team over Cat's Pajamas. You heard it.
You're giving a solid A then?
Yeah, I love this team.
How about you, Travi? Strengths, weaknesses. What's your overall grade for Reed's daddy?
Yeah, so I think Johnny's got a great point. I think this team top to bottom is really good. Look, Johnny doesn't really love George Kittle, but he's an elite talent here, and I think that he's a great centerpiece for this offense. The wide receivers are stacked. Like Johnny said, the running backs are stacked. Quarterbacks are really good. The one thing I will say about the running backs is there's not a lot of depth outside. It's very top heavy at running back. Sony Michel's a nice pick to help that out, and Philip Lindsay to kind of protect Melvin Gordon a little bit, I guess. But that would be the one comment I have. I'm not ready to put it over Cat's Pajamas, but I will say that it's an A- for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good team. Like there's not really a weakness on it just based on a starting roster, but it doesn't usurp the Cat's Pajamas, and it at best ties FF Fortune for me.
The one point I want to make, and I made this pretty much every week, and I stand behind it, is for me, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are one of those really interesting 1-2s. Mind you, a couple of years ago, Stefon Diggs, Adam Thielen, or right now, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. It's like, who is going to be who? And as far as I'm concerned, Mike Evans is still the number one. He is still the more talented, more consistent. I know Chris Godwin had an amazing year last year, but I'm still putting Mike Evans as my number one. So but I love Chris Godwin too. I would be happy to grab the number two of either one of those guys. But for me, because it's such a tight one, if you take the first of the wide receivers in Tampa Bay, you're already spending more on value than you should. If you get the second one, great. I don't care where you get him, as long as you get him after that number one. But for me, it's a coin toss. So why would you pick that? So that's the only one for me that's holding a little bit back there. But I think this is a really good team. I think it's definitely not touching the Cat's Pajamas or FF Fortune for me, but I feel good. I'm gonna give him a B+ on my squad for there.
right,
and we got the last one now. So Reed Tyler, we're gonna do Reed Tyler, and then we're gonna compare him and his daddy, and like we said, figure out who's putting who to bed. Christian McCaffrey at the number one spot. Travis Kelce, Mike Evans with that 2-3 turn. Odell Beckham in the fourth. Rookie running back Jonathan Taylor in the fifth. Keenan Allen in the sixth. DeAndre Swift. First quarterback Cam Newton. Marlon Mack. Tyler Boyd. Kerryon Johnson. Ryan Tannehill is his second quarterback. Baltimore Ravens defense. CeeDee Lamb and Robbie Gould, San Francisco kicker, to close out the draft. Big Travie. Strengths, weaknesses, and overall grade for Reed Tyler picking in the number one spot.
Strengths are probably wide receiver here. Mike Evans, OBJ, and Keenan Allen, I think, are all solid wide receivers.
And Tyler Boyd.
It's probably the strength of his team. What?
And Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, Tyler Boyd in the 10th is huge.
Is a huge sleeper.
I mean, probably better than Keenan Allen.
Yeah, in my opinion too. That's what I was thinking too.
But the quarterbacks are a weakness for me. I know Cam Newton's got a lot of upside, but we just don't know with health. And then to pair it up, you paired him with Ryan Tannehill, who, I know Johnny thinks is the white Russell Wilson, but he's definitely not Russell Wilson. So the efficiency scares me, or the lack thereof. Then the running backs, like he had Christian McCaffrey. He started off great, but then Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift are both rookies coming into roles with solidified running backs on the depth chart with them. So at least at best a timeshare where they're the leader of. At worst, they're in a 50-50 or a 60-40 where they're on the bad end of that. So for me, I just don't think that this team top to bottom really made it into the top tier for me. It's definitely on the lower end. I would say a C+. I think Kelce and Christian McCaffrey will carry him on a lot of weeks, but C+ for me.
Johnny, strengths, weaknesses, what's your overall grade for Reed Tyler?
I think Travis did a really good job of breaking it down. I don't know if I would say a C+. I would probably give him. It's hard to give any team with Christian McCaffrey and saying, oh, he's going to get a C+ on it. Like Christian McCaffrey alone in a PPR, like I understand I'm saying.
Yeah, but we're in a 10-team league too. Like
I know, but it's going to have weight. Like that's one of the best players. So I'm a bigger fan of Cam. I think Cam Newton is going to be phenomenal this year. I'm really excited. But again, yeah, Ryan Tannehill as your QB2, that's a little bit shaky there. And I'm just, even though you grab the handcuffs of these running backs, I think Travis did kind of nail on the head that like I'm just not super excited for these running backs. I mean, DeAndre Swift, I kind of am because I do think that there's potential, but again, I don't think it's right away. I think it's going to take some time for him to kind of weave out Kerryon Johnson. I do think
he did get Kerryon Johnson too.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
he
got both
handcuffed
backups,
these,
but I think that's the problem though too. Is like you may end up with a headache each and every week with these guys just based on where they're at.
Yeah.
If one we knew was going to be injured, then yes, you're like all engines go. But I think you're in a situation, at least for this year, where you don't really know who's going to get the bulk of the carries each and every week.
Yeah.
I mean, he took my strategy on this one that I love with it. And you think about this: you can only start 2 running backs, right? And you're going to start Christian McCaffrey. And then if you're starting the lead dog in Indianapolis or the lead dog in Detroit, like you're set all year.
Well, who is
You're
that?
set all year
That's
with
the
Christian
problem.
McCaffrey
That's
the
what
one,
we're
and then
saying. The problem
your
isn't
RB2 is set the whole time.
The problem isn't saying that, oh yeah, if you just start this backfield, the guy that'll the problem solved like that. Yeah, in theory, but the issue is DeAndre Swift. Out of all 4 of those guys, he projects to be that RB2 for you. But I, even as big of a fan as I am of DeAndre Swift, I can't guarantee you he's going to get more than 50% of the touches.
The problem with the Indy backfield is both Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor aren't going to be the pass catching back. That's Naheem Hines. Like,
right.
You're not getting a guy in either of those Indy backs that's a 3-down back. So
it's not a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt kind of
situation.
Right.
Where
backups also the 3rd down.
It's just kind of an ugly running back muddled up.
I would give him a B- because I can't give a team that has CMC on it and Travis Kelce and Mike Evans, that trio, a C. Like that's a good enough trio right there in itself to be a B- team in my eyes. That's just my opinion.
Bigger fan of this squad. I think for me, I'm a pretty big fan of the Cam Newton upside, the Travis Kelce upside, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen. I know there's some questions there, but these are still shiny receivers. Some new questions at quarterback, different things. But I think you guys are being a little harsh on Reed Tyler over here. I like this squad. I'm gonna give him a BB+.
All right. Well, either way, the case was made based on our grading that Reed's daddy was the winner of the 2 of them. But yeah,
this week
we did it. This week doesn't mean next week can't be different. We need everyone to bring their A game next week because we are drafting a 14-teamer next week. It's going to be very similar to what our listener league is. So not only are we giving away that spot to our listener league, whoever has the best draft, but it is going to be very similar to how our actual draft will be or look like as far as settings.
This has been a lot of fun, guys. Make sure you tune in next week. I want to thank, again, everybody. Reed Tyler, Reed's Daddy, Mikey G, the Cats Pajamas, Brandon Stan, FF Fortune, Mile High Stello, Easy Daddy, and Jacob Blade, #1 fan. Thank you guys so much for spending the last 2 hours with us drafting on Sleeper. And thank you to all of the people who tuned in, got in the comments, watched along on YouTube. It has been a blast. Love drafting with you, Whisper Nation. This is fantastic. Let us know what you'd like to see moving forward. Remember, see you next week. We'll have the details. Get in that draft room early so you got a shot to be a part of the Listener League. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, please. Guys, am I missing anything?
No,
head
I
over
think
to
that's to
fantasywhispers.com and download our draft kit. It's $15, guys. It's a huge value. We've got risk assessor. We've got consistency charts. We've got every fantasy relevant player you can think of. We've got a written profile for them. So guys, you've got to check it out. All of our premium player projections, only $15 at thefantasywhispers.com.
And I'd say, Josh, hey, do send Johnny a DM. Hit us up in the DMs over here, and we can figure out those details. I'm Austin Sear, Big Travie, Johnny Game Time Hicks. We're out.
We're out. Peace. Dude.